word of life torn apart. We turn away, but it's happening. The blood's on our hands, on our hearts. What have we done to these children? What do they see? What do they know? Their homes are gone, they're crying, while our taxes fund the show. What's in your head? In your head? Shadows rising, yeah, yeah, yeah. What's in your head? In your head? While our taxes fund the show. What's in your head? In your head? Shadows rising, yeah. They're dying, gas is burning, no denying, and the walls they keep on rising, while the world keeps on lying. They're dying, no more voices, no more crying, what we pay for keep denying, but the truth shining. Iraq's in ruins, it's endless, twice torn apart by our greed. Deserts turn to battlegrounds, but who profits from their need? The innocent scream unheard, while missiles strike from the sky. We're fed the lies that we believe, while the people, they just die. What's in your head? In your head? Shadows rising, yeah, yeah, yeah. What's in your head? In your head? While our taxes fund the show. What's in your head? In your head? Shadows rising, yeah, yeah, yeah. They're dying, guns are burning.
Good morning out there in streaming world. Happy Tuesday, May the 13th, in the year of our Lord Donald Trump. I am Manila Chan. That over there is producer Robby. You are tuned into the Ted Manila Information Show, TMI for short, because we bring you too much information and oftentimes things you just never even ask to hear about. The Ted will be back tomorrow. I think today he's winding down his holiday by bird watching. I think that's what he's doing, like in Yosemite or something. I don't know. Could be. Just all speculation.
I don't know. I will tell you that my wife, she threatened to disown me after I cut my hair yesterday. She's like, "What did you do?"
This is extra short, Robby.
It is. But you know what? Hey, I like it.
Now you totally look like a white supremacist that everyone accuses you of being.
Well, always dress for the job that you want, Manila. Dress for the job that you want. That's what she said. That's what she said when she came home. She's like, "What the hell did you do to your head?" And then my kids came home. I mean, they all but did the big smile. I mean, think about what I just said. It's just like, "What did you do?" I got
now you look
shaggy.
the part.
It was getting shaggy.
Now you look. I shouldn't have called. That was my fault. Apologies to Mrs. Putinbot. That was my fault. I called Robby out for having long hair yesterday, the longest I've seen it in a long time.
Yeah.
And so now here we are, skinhead producer Robby.
Yeah, such is life.
That's my fault. That's my fault. Now you look prepared to go hunting Xboxes or whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, just the job that you want.
That's right.
I mean, if someone's going to accuse you of something, wear the label takes all the power away from it. So
that's
it
true.
Is what it is.
Own it.
Yeah,
you own it.
I will be. I will be your propagandist, your Russian bot, your white supremacist. I do not care. I suck at it. I'm married to a black woman, but still.
And you're on the air with an Asian woman, so there's that. So anyway, if you guys can't tell, if you're new to the show, this is not your normal news and commentary show. No. It's not very straight-laced, but we're doing better with not dropping F-bombs. because a
'cause Ted
certain
ain't here.
somebody is not here. So anyway, today we've got we're gonna wait for our guest and chit chat about some other stuff. We're gonna bring in George Szamuely in just a little bit at about probably around the 15-minute mark. In the meantime, we're gonna tell you about probably the big news, the big international news happening today. So before we get to that, make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe button wherever you're consuming this content. We are live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So please be sure to like and follow the show so it helps the algorithms recognize that, you know, this can be a thing and our little community that we've created both on YouTube and on Rumble. The YouTubers, there's a couple stalwart YouTube chatters in there.
Yep.
But the Rumble room is always fire. Always. So if you're looking to engage, there's a lot more people talking in the Rumble room. Just saying.
But, speaking of the Rumble room, Scary just said, Miss Putin bot knows he needs no help making bad hair choices. This is very true.
Thank you, Scary. And I keep waiting for the chance for a topic regarding Caroline Leavitt to show up because she's the White House press secretary, and
She's done with a rock.
And AG Pam Bondi, because I keep waiting to use the term, because I said AG Pam Bondi is AG Barbie. So I'm waiting for the chance to talk about Caroline Leavitt to call her press secretary Skipper. So for all those, it's a different generation. If you're younger than Gen X, or maybe what do they call it? Not a senior millennial. What do they call them? Geriatric millennial. That's the term now. Geriatric millennial. So because the millennials are now over 40. They're like 40, 41. So they're called geriatric millennials. Geriatric millennials and older know what Skipper is. You're a boy. I don't expect you to know, but
I got a clue.
Skipper was like the companion to Barbie.
Yeah,
So I'm waiting for a chance to call her press secretary Skipper, because that's hilarious. We have AG Barbie and press secretary Skipper. And if you look them up, if you look up the pictures, I promise you guys will not be disappointed. They really do look like them. So, and Scary Girl put that in my head, and now I cannot get it. So there's that. All right. So,
this is that TMI I did not need to know. I mean, it's completely
you have a daughter. Well, I mean, I guess she's way too young, but I don't think I think Skipper's discontinued. But anyway, you have a daughter. She's out of that age group, but still.
Yeah, now she's looking at boys.
Oh boy. And your boy is looking at girls. So that's a whole different.
No, he's done caught one. He's caught the girl.
He caught himself one.
He did. And speaking of the
bear
daughter,
trap.
I told her, I said, she's talking to this boy at school. I said, well, you bring him over to the house. Let me meet him. Let me talk to him, especially the way I look right now.
Oh.
And I will put the fear of God into that boy and let him know, and know in certain terms, if he hurts her in any way, shape, or form, he will not live out the day.
Fair enough. I can respect a dad that does that. Just saying. Probably not enough dads do that. Needs to happen.
Yeah, need more. Just more dads in the home in general, really.
That's a whole different chat topic. But yes, I agree. All right, let's get into a little bit of international news, and then we'll dig into more international news with our buddy George Szamuely when he pops in. So let's hop to it. All right, so we've got just one bit of quick headline news. This is, in case you can't tell, Saudi Arabia. Elon Musk might be winding down his time in Washington, D.C., but he's staying close to Donald Trump's side, including joining the president on his Middle East trip. Musk and several of the biggest names in American business attended a U.S.-Saudi investment forum in Riyadh today, joining Trump and the Saudi crown prince for a lavish luncheon. The Tesla founder traveled to Saudi Arabia independent from Air Force One, because, Musk has that jet that kid put the tracker on or
Sure.
whatever that he's pissed off about. So Musk traveled there on his own dime. I'm not sure why, but there he is, shaking hands,
He can afford
hanging
it.
out with POTUS. Yeah,
Right.
he's fine. He's fine, totally fine. He's there doing his thing, shaking hands with, MBS right there. He is, however, listed as one of the speakers at Trump's forum. Trump introduced Musk to the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman there. I'm not sure if that's the first time that the men have met. It could be that they've met face to face. This might be their first time. A crowd of the who's who on Wall Street and Silicon Valley are all there, including OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, Musk's brother, Kimball. I think a lot of people aren't familiar with him, but Kimball Musk is there, pitching a business thing. FIFA president Gianni Infantino, LinkedIn's Reid Hoffman, Amazon's Andy Jassy. Remember, he's the guy that took over for Jeff Bezos because Bezos is having a midlife crisis and trying to launch penis-shaped rockets into space. Boy, that did not take me long to bring up the penis.
Yep. We all know where your mind is.
But it's true. How do you not look at that and that rocket and not see that it's clearly a penis shape, and Jeff Bezos is having like a midlife crisis with his midlife fiance. And anyway,
Well, in all fairness, Jeff Bezos is the one big giant dick. So it
there's
is what
that.
it is. Yeah.
So there's that. A Google person called Ruth Porat. I don't know her or her position actually. And Boeing's boss, Kelly Ortberg. I'm not sure exactly what her position is, but Kelly Ortberg of Boeing is there. The president
So many
introduced
things I
them
could
one
say.
by one.
So many things I could say, but we're on YouTube.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
So the president introduced all of these big business movers and shakers one by one as part of, as you just saw there with Elon Musk, shaking and meeting and greeting the crown prince. The showcase of America's business titans comes as Trump is pushing Saudi Arabia to invest bigly in America. The CEOs from BlackRock, Citigroup, IBM, Coca-Cola, Delta Airlines, American Airlines, and United Airlines are also on the guest list. So all the big business people are there. But the gathering is also showing the close ties already in place between Wall Street and Saudi's oil-infested wealth. Strong business ties between many of these American companies and Riyadh are already in place. Obviously, many of these businesses already do business in Saudi Arabia. Trump's family and Musk himself also have a cross-section of interest in the region. Musk launched his Tesla dealership in the kingdom just a few weeks ago, back in April. People didn't know that. Relations between he and the Saudi royal family have improved since Musk took a high-profile role in the Trump administration. Surprise, surprise. So suddenly, boom, there's a Tesla dealership in the Saudi lands. And state-backed funds from Qatar and the United Arab Emirates were major investors in a $6 billion fundraising round for Musk, according to the Wall Street Journal. Additionally, a UAE ministry announced in March that a multi-year partnership with Musk's brother, Kimball, for his drone light show company. I'm not even sure exactly what that is. Drones shooting lights like at a disco? I'm not sure.
No, they're big in China. So what they do is instead of fireworks, what you do is that you use basically the really high-powered computers, and you have these drones fly in formation. They light up, so you actually can make images and things like pictures in the sky using drones.
I mean, are these giant drones, like Predator drones, or small?
No, it's like thousands and thousands of small ones.
Weird.
No, I send you stuff. No, I send you stuff like this on Red Note. This is how I know you completely ignore me. I send you stuff like this on Red Note.
I hate social media.
It's your freaking job. It is literally your job, Manila, to be on social media. It is your job.
No, my job that I had. I'm not, first of all, I don't have a job. But secondarily,
This is a job. It doesn't pay.
it's not playing on social media or looking. I only look if I have to. But anyway, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yes, it's so
Drone light shows.
I will
Okay.
send you more stuff, but you have to promise to actually look at it.
You have to put it someplace I'll see it.
Fine, I'll put in the
So-
show chat.
Yes. All right. So
You're killing me.
So that is a thing, apparently. And I'm just greeting our guest, George Szamuely. He's in the virtual green room. So we'll wrap up talking about the Saudis here. But Kimball Musk is apparently selling his light drone business stuff to the UAE because, entertainment. So he'll also be there at today's luncheon, which, because of the time difference, obviously already happened. Musk announced earlier this month that he will spend more time on his business interests, less time working at DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, but his close relationship with Trump will continue, they say. All the officials say Elon, just because he's not physically there at his little private White House office doesn't mean he's not going to take part in DOGE or advising the president. But he will be in the room when President Trump announces the blockbuster economic investments from the Saudis. So I'm curious to know what that deal is going to look like between the U.S. and the Saudis. What more? I mean, they've got the Live Golf thing. The Saudis have got all kinds of stuff going on, because I don't know if they're trying to rebrand their image, from like medieval stoning people to death, and from that to this modern, obviously under MBS they've got like this new tech hub village that they're building. They've got all these business deals going.
I've also heard that they're
Rebrand.
really making a big investment in bone saw manufacturing. So
They will be the world leader in
They
bone
will
saws,
be.
maybe medical ones, hopefully not for like
They're all-
off-label use.
Well, I mean, in all fairness, what happened to Khashoggi was technically a medical procedure.
What happened to
So-
Khashoggi was not a medical procedure.
Sure, it was. It just depends on your perspective, right?
Well,
Amputations are a thing. Now, whether or not they're needed, or if you are
dismembering is different from amputation.
tomato, it's
All
the
right.
same thing.
So with
Just
that,
chopping.
you see Trump and MBS, very friendly, very cordial.
Yeah.
I expect you'll remember after Trump's first term that Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, married to Ivanka, got a huge, like $600 million, or could have been like $6 billion, I forget, too many zeros, huge business investment from the Saudis doing God knows what.
It's just a coincidence. It's a coincidence.
It's very, very much a coincidence. So there's that. So we'll be watching what comes out of this, especially for Elon Musk, because he was in tow with the president, riding on them coattails, and voila, a Tesla dealership appears in Riyadh. Ta-da! Magic.
Yeah.
So American business, wonderful. All right, let's switch gears because our guest is waiting us in the green room. So we'll hop to a couple of big international stories. I would have to say, I think they're bigger than Trump making backroom business deals for after he gets out of, because that's really what this is. Let's be honest. It's 3 more years. You're going to see some Trump related Saudi business. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's if you cannot enhance your own personal wealth at the expense of the American public in the name of democracy, you're much of a businessman. I mean, the biggest ROI any business could ever make is owning a politician. Well, if you are the politician and if you are the CEO, you can in effect pay yourself. So why
Later?
Yeah.
Delayed gratification. The Obamas have a huge Netflix deal. They have their own production company. They've produced one whole movie since he's been out of office, one whole movie, but they get paid tens of millions of dollars to both sit on the board at Netflix and produce exactly one movie in 8 years. So
Well, no, natural gas is also a big investment. Look at you, Burisma. I'm waiting for my check. Just saying.
Well, we'll see. All right, let's get over to our guest. All right, so you guys may have heard there's a lot of stuff happening along Eastern Europe right now. And who better to bring on to talk about what's happening in that side of the world than somebody who lives there? Our friend of the show, of course, George Szamuely. He really needs no real introduction, because if anyone follows our show or any of my previous work, you're familiar with George being one of my most favorite Georges in the world. George Szamuely is, of course, an author of, I'm going to put this book on screen for you here. George, let me pop that up there. Of Bombs for Peace, NATO's Humanitarian War on Yugoslavia. I couldn't have named it any better myself, George. And George not only is an author, but he's a writer of other stuff. You could follow his work, senior fellow at the Global Policy Institute over in London. And George, I believe you have a podcast of your own.
That's right, Manila. It's The Gaggle. And you can follow it on YouTube. You can follow it on Locals, thegaggle.locals.com. So everybody, please subscribe. Ideally, you'll contribute some money towards it, but you don't have to. You can subscribe and you get an enormous amount of content for free. But it'd be very nice if you chipped in a little bit of cash as well.
Yeah, and help George.
Yeah, exactly. Help
and the Gaggle.
Exactly. Help independent, free, thoughtful journalism.
Absolutely. Who's on the Gaggle with you, George?
It's Peter Lavelle, whom I think you know. He was a former colleague of yours. So
that's right.
Yeah, yes.
That's right. I wasn't sure if you rotated, because you bring in guests, and I know Peter was on
We bring in guests, but no, yeah, we normally we do a kind of a dialogue with the two of us, and then sometimes I do a solo. But yeah, he's my partner.
Great. And as you can see, producer Robby is there filling in for Ted, who we speculate could be bird watching, or perhaps on the Elon Musk rocket somewhere at this point. Or no, I'm sorry, Jeff Bezos rocket, because Bezos is taking, just random people into space. Why not? So a couple of things that we're watching, George, and I'd love to pick your brain about. The first one, obviously the big news, I would say, is this alleged peace brokering offer coming from this guy, Recep Tayyip Erdoğan, the forever president of Turkey, NATO member, obviously. Why this guy? Why Istanbul on Thursday? And do you believe that Putin and Zelensky will show up? And Trump said he's flirting with the idea, if he's done with his Middle East trip in time, that he may just swing by Istanbul.
Well, you have to consider what has been going on in the past few weeks. Trump, when he took the oath of office, promised that he would bring this war in Ukraine to a speedy conclusion, and he has tried a variety of initiatives, with not great success. However, it was enough to induce a panic among NATO's European members, and they've been basically going out of their way to try to sabotage any possible peaceful outcome. They're absolutely wedded to continuing with this war, continuing everything that they've been doing since February 2022. So what they've done is come up with this, what they think is a cute idea of offering an unconditional 30-day ceasefire that Zelensky said, yeah, we'll accept it. And then they said, well, now the ball is in Putin's court. Putin doesn't accept the 30-day ceasefire. That will prove to Trump that Putin is the one who is standing in the way of peace. And that will get Trump on board, and he will continue with the Biden, NATO, EU policy of, unrestricted arms flows into Ukraine, funding, and everything else. So they met in Kiev on Saturday. This is, the coalition of the willing, and they issued their ultimatum. If Russia doesn't agree to this 30-day ceasefire, it will be the sort of the mother of all sanctions that we're going to impose. And they continue to repeat throughout Saturday. And Donald Trump is on board with us. Trump supports us. Trump did not support it. Trump notably was not present in this meeting. He didn't call in to this meeting. He didn't even send some minion to this meeting. There was no one there representing Trump. But the coalition of the willing continued to repeat, "Oh, Trump's with us. Trump's with us." But what happened then is, after they issued this ultimatum, is that Putin said, "Well, we're obviously not going to just accept a ceasefire, because a ceasefire during which time these arms will continue to flow into Ukraine, and trainers and all kinds of weaponry, artillery, and everything else is going to continue flowing for 30 days, so that Ukraine will have a nice 30-day breather and then restart the fighting then. So we're not going to accept that. However, we are prepared to start direct negotiations." And he named Istanbul because, of course, Istanbul was where the talks, the aborted talks, took place in 2022, when it seemed like Russia and Ukraine were close to an agreement. As Putin likes to say, the Ukrainian side had initialed the agreement. They were close to an agreement until, of course, Boris Johnson flew into Ukraine and told Zelensky, "Well, why do it? Don't agree to this." And so Putin said, "Well, we will resume those negotiations in the venue where we were negotiating."
Is it symbolic then, you think?
Sorry?
Is it symbolic, you think?
Well, I think he wanted to make it that this was a continuation of the talks. And Putin said, "Look, we wanted to continue with these negotiations. It was you, Zelensky, who walked away. You walked away when Johnson told you, well, forget it." So we want to resume. We've been ready to resume for 3 years now. So he made this offer of direct negotiations. And what then happened, and that was the crucial moment, because the Europeans dismissed this. Well, direct negotiations means nothing. We want that 30-day ceasefire. And then Trump came out with his truth, saying, "Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. Let's have direct negotiations." And then Zelensky had to respond to that and said, "Yeah, okay, I'm ready for direct negotiations." So the Macron and the rest of them said, dismissed this offer of direct negotiation, not interested. But then Putin said, Trump said, "Yeah, this sounds like a great idea, direct negotiations." They had to respond to Trump and said, yeah, I'm going to show up. And then, of course, he said, "Well, if Putin doesn't show up, then that'll show that he's not very serious." But of course, Putin had never offered to negotiate directly, one-on-one between him, and that was never on the cards in Istanbul. It wasn't one-on-one negotiations in Istanbul, so they had their own negotiating teams. The offer of a one-on-one meeting was part of the package in Istanbul, which was that the crucial decisions about the future of Donetsk, Lugansk, and Crimea would be decided in a one-on-one meeting between Putin and Zelensky. So what's likely to happen is a long way of answering your question. What's likely to happen on Thursday is that Zelensky is going to show up. Russians are going to show up, but I don't think Putin's going to show up. And I think because Putin never said he was going to show up, but the Russians will show up, which means that because Putin's not going to show up, I doubt very much that Trump's going to show up. I mean, it was always unlikely Trump was going to show up. He's in the Middle East now, so that would be a considerable detour for him to then to go to Istanbul. But so I think that's what will happen. I think Zelensky will be there, and I think some Russian negotiators will be there, but no Putin, no Trump.
Maybe Lavrov?
That's possible. I mean, yeah, that's a possibility. But not necessarily, because that wasn't really part of what Putin offered. Putin did not offer any particularly high level delegation. He just said we will begin direct negotiations in Istanbul,
point.
and we'll see how the talks go. And then if the talks progress, then of course you can start bringing in a higher level delegation. So
Fair point.
You know,
I read it.
I wouldn't count on Lavrov showing up.
I read it as Vladimir Putin saying, "Hey, I'm going to show up. Are you going to show up?" And now Zelensky saying, "Well, I'm going to be there. Are you going to be there?"
Right. Yeah. No, but Putin never said I will be there. I think
Fair point.
Zelensky did that because I think Zelensky knew Putin wouldn't show up, and so this would be a real PR stunt for him. That he's going to go to Istanbul and says, "Hey, where's Putin? I'm here. I'm ready to talk. You wanted to talk. I'm here, but instead you send a kind of a low level delegation." So that was really never part of the original Putin offer that he himself would show up.
So I have a quick question for you, Mr. George. What is Europe's interest in prolonging the war? I don't understand. What do they get out of it?
It's a very good question, and it's not an easy question to answer. I mean, it's the way to think about it is that they are really completely wedded to this policy. It's almost like it's become an existential matter for them, that they've thrown everything they have into this war. And they've now, if this were to end, then really they would essentially have to admit failure, and they haven't really accomplished anything. And more seriously, there will be serious investigations into the origins of this war, and in particular, why was that deal in Istanbul aborted? Because it was a very good deal for Ukraine, a deal that really, Ukraine didn't deserve, but nonetheless, the Russians made a very generous offer, and it wasn't even very good for the Russians. So why did the Europeans and the Biden administration, and in particular Boris Johnson, why did they urge Ukraine on a suicidal course, saying no to that very good deal, and then fighting on for 3 years, and this extraordinary loss of human life? That's going to come up once this comes to an end. That's going to be very much up for debate, and that's going to really call into question the judgment and integrity of the NATO governments and the NATO leaders.
Gotcha. Because I mean, to me, I'm very much in the Mark Sloboda school of this. I don't think there is a political solution. I think it'll be settled on the battlefield. What do you think? I mean, do you see any instance at all where Russia would concede to any of the European or the American demands? Like, for example, no, they don't control all the 4 oblasts that they have annexed. The Ukrainian government is still intact. Do you see any situation where Russia will settle for anything less than what their stated goals are for the sake of peace? Or do you think they're just going to just keep on going and just end this on the battlefield?
Yeah, I think they probably will continue. I mean, I think that the minimum that the Russians would want to accomplish would be the complete control of the 4 oblasts, which they don't have as yet. So, I mean, most Lugansk, about 99% under Russian control. Kherson, Zaporozhye, and Donetsk, about 70% under Russian control. I think at a minimum, they will want those 3 oblasts fully under their control. Ideally, yes, there'll be demilitarization of Ukraine, and no foreign troops in Ukraine, but that may be more difficult to achieve. I think if the Russians secure all of these oblasts, and that's probably, you're right. I mean, that would have to be done by military means. They haven't done it yet, but they will have to use their military force to get that done, because I don't think the Ukrainians are going to withdraw. I don't think Trump is going to demand that they withdraw from the oblast. So Russia will have to accomplish that. But once they've accomplished that, I think that would be the moment when there would be some kind of an agreement. I don't think the Russians will continue, for some regime change in Kiev and the rest, because I think that would be very difficult to do, and that might. So this is another issue that could be risky. I mean, it would antagonize the Trump administration, and then the Trump administration might get very heavily involved in this, and then any hope of any subsequent improvement of relations between Russia and the United States would just simply be down the tubes. So I think the Russians still want good relations with the United States. So I think they will have to, use additional arms just to secure the minimum, and that is the control of the 4 oblasts.
Okay.
Now, George, let's go back to Turkey for a second here before we switch gears and go into the Romanian elections. What is in it for Turkey? Turkey is a NATO member. President Erdoğan, we've seen go back and forth between his support for Vladimir Putin in one way or another, but then sending military equipment to Ukraine. And, he does politics. He plays politics very well. Whatever we think of him doesn't matter. He does what's best for Erdoğan, and maybe, I don't know if that's what's best for Turkey, but what's in it for them? Why do they want to continue to try to at least give the illusion of brokering peace? Is there anything good for Turkey that would come out of this?
Not really. I think this is just simply a means for Erdoğan to posture on the world stage. He becomes a peacemaker, a peace broker. But I think in this case, really, the choice of Istanbul is that's where the initial agreement was very close to signing. So therefore, well, why not continue in the venue where we almost came to an agreement? And then therefore the Russians could say, well, look, we never gave up. We never said that negotiations should stop, so it makes sense to be in Istanbul. But they could quite easily be taking place somewhere else. So, but it's convenient for both. But I can easily see it could happen in Riyadh. But Riyadh isn't particularly geographically proximate. I mean, it's quite a long trip. So I think it makes sense. And Turkey is. It's very good at playing both sides of the street. So Turkey has maintained good relations, even though it's a member of NATO. It's maintained good relations with Russia. It's maintained pretty good relations with Ukraine. So it's not, it does make some sense that Turkey could act as, in some ways, a mediator. But it's not. But Turkey isn't really being a mediator. These are direct negotiations. So it's without really any mediation.
So just kind of a hosting a venue.
I think it's a hosting because it's actually not mistrusted by either side.
If Russia is successful, with their minimum war aims that we talked about just a minute ago, does that put does that jeopardize the existence of the NATO alliance? I mean, if they are defeated in Ukraine, does that then bring up questions about, is NATO still viable?
I think NATO will survive, because if Russia does indeed succeed militarily, then it'll be a limited success, because it will only have taken a limited amount of Ukrainian territory. Remember, I mean, Trump has said that this, I think, is a quite a likely deal, because Trump has said, look, if they take these oblasts, at least they didn't take the whole of Ukraine. So they will have taken this, they will have, whatever it is, 20% of Ukraine. And then how will NATO interpret this? Well, NATO will interpret it as, we have a big threat on our eastern frontier. We need to mobilize. We need to spend more money on our military. We need to organize ourselves. We have to really come together and integrate our military commands and to face off this Russian threat. So any Russian success will actually be a shot in the arm for NATO. It becomes a further justification for its existence, for extra expenditures. Trump has already demanded, they jack up their spending for up to 5% of GDP. So this, well, yeah, we need to, because there's a threat from Russia. Russia might attack the Baltic states. Russia might attack, Sweden. I mean, these scare stories will serve to rationalize NATO's existence for another 20 so years. NATO's existence is only under threat when there is no justification for its existence. When there's where's the enemy? So there's no enemy. That's always the moment of gravest danger for NATO. That's why at the end of the Cold War, that was the moment of the gravest danger for NATO. No one could think of a reason why NATO should continue to exist.
Yeah, exactly. I think more and more the younger generation questions this, and that also proves to be a threat for the existence of the group anyways. So let's switch gears now. The Romanian elections, I can't even keep track anymore, George, how many do-overs they're going to be forced to have. The runoff has proven successful for the guy, George Szamuely, who is, I guess, Romanian style Trump, I guess we can say. That's maybe not in the interest or working in the favor of the other European Union members who were not happy with the previous winner. Can you break down for the people who are not following what's happening in Romania, why there are so many elections and runoffs in the past 1 year over and over and over? Why is this happening?
Right, exactly. Well, there was this, those guy, Călin Georgescu, who was on the brink of victory last December. He won the first round of the presidential election, and the Romanian political establishment, and of course NATO and the EU, got very anxious because he was a Romania first type politician, like an Orban, and was very critical of the Ukraine policy, and generally very critical of NATO. So the Constitutional Court of Romania stepped in and essentially annulled the election, citing irregularities in the TikTok campaign for him. By the way, Russia was involved in this TikTok campaign. Now, of course, in the first place, they couldn't really come up with any evidence that Russia was involved. In the second place, even if Russia was involved in this TikTok campaign, Romanians went out and voted for Georgescu. So even if there was this TikTok campaign, what difference does it make? I mean, people actually went out and voted for him. So just as the second round of the voting was taking place in December, the Constitutional Court then said, okay, well, we have to cancel it because of Russia. Now, the problem was that, there was subsequent investigations. They couldn't find any evidence of Russian involvement. And this TikTok campaign was actually organized by a political rival of the conservatives. They were hoping to boost the support for Georgescu in order to split the vote on the right, standard operating procedure, split the vote, and then the Romanian liberal would get in. Had nothing to do with Russia. But they had to decide, okay, we'll have a runoff, or not a runoff, a rerun of the election in May, which is where we are now. And then, of course, Georgescu said, okay, fine, well, I'm going to put my name in the ballot. And of course, as soon as it was clear that he was going to run in May, he surged in the polls, and there was no question that he was going to win. So the Romanian authorities arrested him, came up with some nonsensical allegations. He's involved in money laundering, supporting fascists. Apparently he had said nice things about the Romanian dictator from the 1930s, Antonescu, and I mean, it's like, man, Antonescu, this is something, was around 80 years ago. So, but so they brought this up and said, "Oh, we can't have somebody who says nice things about Antonescu." So we said, "No, you can't run." And then, of course, then that's when this George Simeon's moment came. Simeon had run in December, but he didn't do particularly well. He only came in fourth. So then he surged once he declared that he was the new Georgescu. He would be he'd be a kind of a carbon copy of Georgescu. He'd be a kind of also Romania first. My hero is Donald Trump. I'm going to be Trumpy, and I'm going to stick with Trump. Whatever. And at every moment, I'm going to be just like Trump. Even though he said that his hero in Europe is Giorgia Meloni, who's an extremely pragmatic politician, who's ran as a conservative, but an anti-immigration, but she sticks with Ursula von der Leyen. Now, the problem with Simeon, and where there's a difference between him and Georgescu, is that Georgescu was a kind of a sovereignist, a kind of a national sovereignty. He said Romania should basically be run by Romanians and shouldn't be a cat's paw of NATO and pursue NATO policies that are contrary to Romanian interests, like in Ukraine. And Romania has a border with Ukraine, a very large border with Ukraine, and Romania acts as a transshipment hub for weaponry into Ukraine, and that's what Georgescu objected to. Simeon's a little different. Simeon is an ethno-nationalist. He had cut his political teeth basically attacking the national minorities in Romania. The most prominent of these national minorities is, of course, the Hungarian minorities. Of many Hungarians in Romania, and Simeon had objected to having these ethnic nationalist political parties in Romania. The Hungarians have their own political party. He's against the whole Hungarian language and culture and so on. And so the Hungarians in particular absolutely hate Simeon. They said that this is our enemy. He's an enemy of the Hungarian people. So this kind of creates a bit of a tension, because if Romania under Simeon is going to pursue this goal, the Georgescu goal of national sovereignty, he would obviously align with Viktor Orban in Hungary. But Orban can't really be very happy about Simeon's very fraught relations with the Hungarian minority in Romania. So when he won the first round of the vote with a 41%, Orban said nothing. Normally Orban is very voluble. He said, "Yeah, blow for Brussels. I'm all for it, and fantastic." He said nothing. And then Simeon tried to make a pitch for the Hungarians by saying, "I'm going to be a Viktor Orban. I love Viktor Orban. Viktor Orban is a model for the kind of government I'm going to have. I want national sovereignty. I want independent, sovereign, and Europe of sovereign nation states, and a Christian Europe." And all the kinds of things that Orban says. And then so Orban said, "Yeah, I like the sound of this Simeon. So yeah, I can work with him." So when he said that, the Hungarians of Romania immediately got very upset. They said, "No, you can't support Simeon. He's our enemy. He's the worst thing for the Hungarians." And now Orban has sort of backed away from that. It says, "Well, I defer to the political party that represents the Hungarians of Romania. Whatever they want, whatever they think is best, I will support that." But again, long story short, even if Simeon wins, it's not clear that he will win. But if he does win, I think it's going to be difficult for him to form an alliance with Orban. It's that issue of the Hungarians is a real sticking point between Hungary and Romania.
So I'm going to ask you the dumbest question you probably have heard all week. Why don't you just change the borders? I mean, if there's such an ethnic problem and I realize it's very simplistic. I'm a typical dumb American. So I imagine this happened after World War I, with the collapse of the Austrian Empire. I mean, if you have if you have different ethnic groups, and if they don't particularly like each other, that why are they not able, for whatever reason, to exercise their sovereignty, if we even believe in that anymore, and change the borders? I mean, wouldn't that solve a lot of these problems in Europe and in Asia and these other countries? I mean, to me, that makes sense, but I'm a dumb hick from Montana. What do I know?
Well, you're right. I mean, that wouldn't make sense. Hungary was very hard done by after World War I at the Treaty of Trianon, and they lost huge amount of territory. They lost Transylvania, this very beautiful part of Hungary. That went to Romania. Then they lost a large part of the north that went to Slovakia. At the time, it was Czechoslovakia. In the 1930s, Hitler offered the Hungarians kind of a redrawing of the borders, and Hungary did achieve a redrawing of the border. They got a piece of the Slovakia, and then they got a piece of Romania back. And that redrawing of the borders actually was more in conformity with where the ethnic groups lay. But then after 1945, all the borders were restored. The status quo ante was restored. Status quo ante for 1940 was restored. I think the Hungarians would certainly like a redrawing of the borders. They would like to get back some of Transylvania. Romania, which is about twice the size of Hungary, of course, strongly objects. And so all that happens is just this very difficult relations. There are times when, because of politics, the Hungarians can overlook the issue of the treatment of the ethnic Hungarians. In the case of Slovakia, Robert Fico was also not exactly a friend of the Hungarians of Slovakia, but Orban has overlooked it because there is a kind of an alliance between Fico and Orban against Brussels. So they have good relations, even though the issue of the ethnic Hungarians, is a sore point. Maybe something like that will happen in the case of Simeon, but at the moment, that's a very difficult one, because Simeon, was explicit. That's how he launched his political career, as an enemy of the Hungarians of Romania.
Gotcha. Thank you for answering that. That's just one of the things. I've always just wondered, if you have all these different ethnic groups living in different countries, they cause political problems, nationalism, have all these other things. That seems like if you just let them go, it seems like that would solve those problems. But maybe it's just too simplistic for international politics.
You're absolutely right. But the problem is that the powerful forces in the EU and NATO refuse to allow this. I mean, Yugoslavia is a case in point, where once Yugoslavia broke up, then it made sense to redraw the borders, because they say, look, this used to be a common state. These were arbitrary administrative boundaries that were drawn up, and therefore ethnic groups were kept separate. It didn't matter when they were living in the common state, but now that they're separate state, and these administrative borders became international frontiers, then it would make sense to redraw borders. But the moment anyone raises them, NATO immediately starts threatening the use of force, and in particular the Serbs who were the most hard done by through these arbitrary administrative boundaries becoming international frontiers. So you had the Serbs being stuck in this Bosnia and Herzegovina, where they really wanted to be a part of Serbia, and then of course you had the Serbs in Croatia also wanted to be a part of Serbia, but they were told, shut up and stay where you are, because if you start making any trouble, then you're going to have to deal with NATO bombs. Now, in the case of Ukraine, Russia has taken matters into its own hand, and said, these were arbitrary borders drawn up by the Bolsheviks. They never had any relations to where ethnic groups actually lived. This is what the Bolsheviks did. They drew up these borders and kept everyone at everyone's throat because they were so arbitrary. But once they became international frontiers, and they were then subject to persecution, then something had to be done. So Russia has done this, and they're strong enough to be able to do it without NATO doing anything, NATO being able to do anything about it. The Serbs, unfortunately, weren't strong enough to do it, and so they had to accept the reality on the ground, because ultimately the Serbs couldn't defeat NATO.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's pretty good whenever a defensive alliance attacks you and then claims self-defense while it does it. So
that's exactly
pretty wild.
It's a defensive. Exactly.
One more election, George, and then we'll quit bending your ear. The Albanians also had an election.
Mhm.
And that's what we're looking at on screen here. Albanian Prime Minister Edi Rama secured a fourth term in office after his party dominated Sunday's parliamentary elections with 94% of the ballots counted. Rama's Socialist Party won 52%, while opposition leader Sali Berisha's Democratic Party sits on just 34%. It's obviously marking a setback for this MAGA message.
Sali Berisha is, he was a terrible person. He was an extreme nationalist, Albanian nationalist. You can be an Albanian nationalist, but he kind of created problems in Kosovo, particularly during the 1990s, when he was essentially whipping up irresponsibly a kind of Albanian nationalist fervor in Kosovo. So Sali Berisha has this, it's a long track record of essentially irresponsible nationalism. So generally the socialists in Albania are a little more responsible than these extreme nationalists. But yeah, but they ultimately they have to do as they're told. I mean, they follow the NATO script, and so while if you go back in time, the Albanian socialists were willing to cooperate with Belgrade in just sort of trying to calm things down and work something out in Kosovo in particular. But it was Sali Berisha who was absolutely determined to cause as much trouble as possible. So anytime he loses out, I think it's good news for Europe.
Excellent. I don't know the inner workings of, I'm not super familiar with Albania, so I was curious to see how this would play out in terms of the world stage, how the EU might respond to it, how NATO might respond to it. So in this case, they're happier with the Socialist Party.
I think so. I mean, I don't think right now it's a real problem for him. I mean, it would be possible if Sali Berisha had won, then things would be a little more difficult in Kosovo. I mean, things are generally quite tense between the kind of the rabid nationalist Kosovo Albanian leaders in Kosovo, and essentially they try to make life as difficult for the Serbs in Kosovo as possible. With Sali Berisha in Albania, I think that would probably fuel further this kind of Kosovo Albanian agitation against the Serbs. So I think probably the Europeans, just in order to have fewer headaches, are probably quite happy with this result.
Yeah, old bad blood, as they say, George. It doesn't go away quickly. There's George's book, Bombs for Peace, and go check out his podcast called The Gaggle with our buddy Peter Lavelle.
thegaggle.locals.com.
There you go, because Peter Lavelle never says anything very spicy, George. Not at all. George Szamuely, always an honor and a pleasure to speak with you.
Oh, it's very good to speak to you.
Please go check out George's work and check out his book online, Bombs for Peace. Unless you've got a new one that I don't know about, George.
I don't have a new one yet, so
Not yet.
that's to check out. Yeah.
Yeah, so go check out that one, Bombs for Peace, NATO's humanitarian war on Yugoslavia. It's like George is like an expert on this subject or something.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you so much, George.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.
I love
He's
George.
always a riot. He's super smart and he's very fun to talk to. That's that's the best of both worlds. Because oftentimes when, especially in my career, you talk to people that are the academics and the eggheads, right? But they're
Sure.
so drab and dull and dreary, and they just roll on and on. And George is not like that. He's an academic, but he's so colorful and fun to talk to and has personality. So I always love when I get the chance to talk to George.
Well,
So
no,
it's always
it's
a
like I
pleasure.
told you, before we started the show, is this, I would love to be able to sit in a room with him and Mark Sloboda and Douglas McGregor and somebody just sit there and listen to them talk and not say a word. And I'm
Right.
not quite
Just let
there
the men
yet,
have a
but we're
drink and
close.
listen to them.
Yeah, I mean, you can learn so much.
That would be quite the TV show. If you can
It would
have,
be.
like, let's say, a McGregor, the two Georges, Galloway and Szamuely,
Yep.
and throw Sloboda in there, give them a couple whiskeys, and some cigar, and just let the men have at it and let the cameras roll.
When
That would be
when George and Sloboda are on crosstalk with Peter Laval, it's it is 100% worth it, because, well, I mean, you hear it right here. George thinks that there could be a political solution, and Mark's like, no, they're going to go away to Poland. Which one was right? I hope George is, but in my heart of hearts, I know that Mark's right, and so
I
it's
know,
it's wild.
exactly. I'm not where Ted Rall is on thinking the political solution is right there out to grab, like an apple in a tree. I'm not there with Ted. I think it's possible. I think it exists, and I certainly hope for it. But in my heart of hearts too, I think the war drags on.
Yep.
I don't think Thursday. I think Thursday,
It's gonna
there
be a
will
nothing
be
burger.
something, but nothing that is gonna be
It's going to be theater.
tangible, or it's gonna
It's
be
like
all theater for. I think Zelensky will show up and try to beat his chest and be like, I showed up. Where were you, Pootie? I think that's what's gonna happen.
Well,
On
I'll tell you
Thursday.
what Putin would say. I'm using my army to kick your butt. That's what he's going to say. He's like, while you're over there, getting your grift, getting stoned,
Right.
snorting your cocaine, I'm using my army to enact policy against your nation. That's how Putin's going to answer.
Well, real leaders, more action,
Yep.
less talk, because I don't get the Russians, how they've, after so many times they've turned the cheek, they keep trying to reach a hand out. And even under a young Vladimir Putin, like 20 years ago, a young Vladimir Putin kept trying to make friends with the West. I wonder if he's got it yet through his head that the West has chosen. It's not even him. Like, it's not even personal to him. I mean, it is, but it's not, right? It's whoever was going to be in that seat at the Kremlin was bound to get the ire of the West, because that's just part of America's foreign policy doctrine, is there needs to be a bad guy, and the bad guy is whoever sits in that seat at the Kremlin. It doesn't matter if it's Putin. I mean, at some point they would have turned on, I don't know, what's his face, drunky,
Yeltsin.
Thank you. I was going, I just think of him in his boxers.
I mean,
I've read some stories about the dude.
But really, I mean, the biggest tragedy about this is, back in the days of the Soviet Union, really the only people who got to travel were the military or the KGB. So, I mean, Putin spent years in Germany.
Yeah.
He had a real appreciation for the West. Like,
Yes.
he understood it was in his interest to cultivate a relationship with the West to try and build something that would be tangible. But it's like you said, if you're going to have a military industrial complex, you've got to have an enemy. Well,
Yes.
Russia's going to be the enemy, and
Right.
it's such a tragedy. It's stupid.
Well, I'll tell you why it's easier to have the Russians as the enemy, is because, look, it's
Well, it's called a
almost
Cold
a
War.
parallel nation to the United States in the way that it looks, right? The people primarily. So when you think of the people in the big cities like Moscow or St. Petersburg, they look like white America.
Sure.
They're Christian white America, right? They're Christian also. They're Orthodox, but they're Christian. So like I said, it's like it's parallel. They're parallel to the United States. They're a big science and hemispheric leader in on their side of the world, as
Sure.
well as we are on our side of the world. So it really is just a parallel nation. And so if you have a bad guy in people that look exactly like you and operate pretty much exactly like you, then you are less likely to be accused of being racist, like whenever we go into the Middle East and bomb the shit out of it, right? We're racist because white Christian America is bombing all through the Middle East. All these brown people are dying. It's not quite the same thing with the Russians, because you can say, well, I mean, we're not racist, but also we're also not going to carpet bomb St. Petersburg. So,
Well, they
you
can't.
know,
I mean,
exactly.
that's part of the problem is that the United
That's
States
why
is
it's a
really
fake
good.
boogeyman.
I mean, well, yeah, I mean, it's all a grift. And one thing
That's
that's
right.
not a grift, if you want Rumble, just throw us an ad for Rumble Premium.
Oh, there you go. Let's do that.
Oh, we just lost it.
Support freedom of speech. What?
It just went
Lost
away.
it.
Damn it, all
Ah,
hell. We need one
we
more
weren't
person.
fast enough.
We need one more person to log on Rumble, then we can do it. It is
Well,
what it is.
Well, there
Okay.
you go. I think that's the shitty thing about the military industrial complex is obviously that you always need a bad guy, and when
Yep.
your economy for the latter half of the 20th century is based on no longer producing any tangible goods, rather producing things that you can sell abroad, which become just our bombs, and to kill everybody, for everybody to kill everybody else.
Sure.
Because it's not just us going to carpet bomb the Middle East. We're selling our arms to the Middle East to go bomb each other. We're selling our bombs on the black market for the black folks in Africa to kill each other, where we've become official arms dealers. That's really all it is that the United States is. We're not going to go bomb Moscow. That's the thing. We're not going to hit Moscow. We're not going to hit St. Petersburg, but we need to continually caricature them as the bad guy, as Bizarro America, because they look like us. Well, not
Sure.
me. Well, no, some of them look like me,
Yeah,
but for the most part, they look like
a lot of them
you.
look like you. Yeah.
A lot of them look like me a lot, but the ones you think of when you think of Ruskies, they look like you, right? And so it's easier to say that's the bad guy. They're parallel Americans. So that's kind of been our doctrine for the past 50 years. So
Yep.
have we got
I
our
agree.
ad back?
Yep, it is back. Hold on just one
let's hit it.
second. Let's go make this happen. And this sponsorship is from Rumble directly. And for those of you who are fans of the TMI show, y'all going to like this. This sponsorship is from Rumble, one that is incredibly important to the survival of the company. When Rumble first started in 2013, they built a platform for the small creator. They didn't censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought platforms would censor political conversation or censor opinions on COVID, but they did. Facebook admitted they fell to pressure from the Biden and Harris administration. Rumble did not. They held the line. They're attacked daily for giving us a voice to talk to you. They're attacked in corporate media. They're attacked by governments like France. They're attacked from brand advertisers who refuse to work with them. Corporate America is fighting to remove speech. Rumble's fighting to keep it. Rumble won't survive without brand advertisers. They don't get much of it. Watching our show on Rumble is the most they can ask from you. But if you really believe in this fight, and if you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. Join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble is offering $10 off with the promo code STUDIO when you purchase an annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium and use promo code STUDIO. Like I said, if you have the means and believe in the cause, now's the time to join Rumble Premium. If you don't have the means, we're just happy to have you watch us here on Rumble.
Absolutely. Amen. If Rumble succeeds, then in part we succeed because we're an official Rumble
We're a
creator.
premium creator. Yep.
We're a premium creator. So if you're watching us on the show right now, if you're in the financial position to do so, hit that red button right below our talking head box here. Hit the Rumble Premium button, so you can upgrade to full Rumble membership, and then you get everything commercial free, and you get all of the official creators like Kim Iverson and Russell Brand and all of those people.
Yeah.
You
And
get to
me.
see their premium content, and Putin bot, even
Yes.
the Putin bot.
Because yes, the one and only Putin bot with sometimes with hair and sometimes without. But yeah, it is true. Yeah, and
Sometimes with more skinhead.
well, like I said, just for the job that you want, right? It is what it is. I'm gonna get us kicked off of YouTube today. God,
Poke fun. Why not? Why not? All right.
I'm such a troll.
That brings us to the end. We've got real life ahead of us to get to. Ted Rall is due to be back tomorrow. I think he has probably touched down back on Earth's soil, on Mother Earth. And I think Ted's got a lot to say, because he occasionally messages us with things that are angering him, like news stories.
That's true. That's true. Oh,
So-
one thing I'm going to do real quick, I'm going to let y'all know, now that our library here on Rumble has grown, and because one of the ways that Rumble supports the TMI show financially is by using watch hours, I'm going to go in and I'm going to start organizing all of our content into different playlists. So that way, say if you're looking for something for just your daily Ukraine fix or Europe or whatever, I'm going to start organizing all of our content in the playlists based on geographic area and topic. So that will make it easier for you to find what you want to watch. That way you can binge watch us and support Mila and Ted, since they don't have a paycheck. So there's that.
That is true. That is true. We're trying to scrape one together, and I really do appreciate being a Rumble creator, because it opens up at least an opportunity to make some ends meet, you know, between unemployment checks and maybe some small Rumble checks that are about to begin. Then, you know, it can snowball, and you know, it can become an actual viable thing. And then we can create more and more content begets more content, right? More viewership begets more content, begets more viewership, and so on, and it snowballs. So we would love to continue to make good content for you, and it does take time, guys. It takes time to hunt down good guests, figure out availability, you know, and it takes time. Sourcing and all of that stuff takes time. So if I were forced into having to go get some other job, we would have less time to make content.
I mean, it wouldn't happen. I mean, one of the reasons,
Right.
I know y'all see me looking away from during the show, is because I'm actually doing my day job while I'm working. So I mean, it's
well, you're lucky enough to have a remote job.
I'm incredible. If it wasn't for that, I mean, with Ted out, no, you wouldn't have a show for a week. So
No,
I mean,
I couldn't. It'd be
it is what
way
it
too
is.
hard to do this alone. So we appreciate any kind of support. And as George Szamuely said, with the gaggle and all of that, they're in the same boat, right? George is in Europe, and I don't know what being a talking head or egghead at all these different institutes, fellowships. I think they pay something, but I think it's just enough to get by, not enough to really truly live.
Yeah,
So
I have no idea.
independent media really does need people to step up and take the power back and away from the mainstream, who have been lying to you for the past 20 plus years, easily, demonstrably the last 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, but seriously, I mean, the best way you can help this show, if you're on Rumble, honestly, is just by going back to the library and watching all the episodes. You just let it run.
Yeah,
you have no idea how impactful those watch hours are. It is huge. So for those of you who do that, thank you.
If you can't buy into it, all you have to do is just
watch.
Let it play. Walk away from your computer or do whatever, but let our shows play. That is a great way to help this show. Is just let it roll.
Yep,
and
for sure.
And that helps us collect all the pennies from all the different people watching the show, even in the background. So we would appreciate it. But that's it. Ted will be back tomorrow. The gang gets back together, and the show gets back to our normal format. And Robby can actually pay attention to his day job.
They're going to be Robby-less. I wonder.
Are we Robby-less tomorrow?
No, but I won't be on the screen anymore. Like you'll be with
we pop you in every day. We pop
Yeah.
you in every day so you can, say something inflammatory.
Oh, well, hey, especially when I talk about immigration. So
I
there's
know.
that.
We know, Robbie. We
I
know.
know. I know you know. I know you
All right,
know.
guys. That does it for us.
That's what we should do for our next Rumble Premium show is just all immigration, just go completely unhinged.
No,
Let
that's
the personality
with
match the
Robbie
haircut.
unhinged. If you guys really, oh my God, if we let Robbie off the leash on that, you guys would
Y'all would hate me.
hate Robbie.
It's true.
He's so serious about like locking down the border.
Yes.
It is like draconian medieval style shit. I'm not even kidding.
You either have a country or you don't.
Medieval shit that goes through Robbie's head because he's a history buff and he's literally taking things from Transylvania, actually, like what George Szamuely brought up. And I thought of those things in my head when I went, oh, don't bring up Transylvania and Count Dracula and how things are done back then, because Robbie's gonna. I was like, please don't start Robbie on that. Please don't start.
He was Dracula is one of the greatest military commanders of all time. I mean, he is unsung. But study the night attacks. See what he did. He damn near captured the Ottoman Sultan that conquered Constantinople. Like, he found the bastard's tent. I mean, he nearly scored a killing blow. It was wild.
History nerd.
Yes.
That's it, guys. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you so much. Remember to hit the like button and at least subscribe and let the show run in the background. Help us out that way. Thank you so much. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. Adios, amigos. Bye.
Bye-bye, y'all.